In this video, we're going to show you how to write your first application on the G2H2 7-inch dev kit, and we'll show you how to download the application to the module. The application will be just a simple couple of buttons sending a message to the host processor, and then a couple indicators that receive messages from the host controller.
In this video, we're going to make an application that looks similar to the I/O demo that comes pre-installed on the development kit. It'll have a couple of buttons that will send messages to the host application, and it'll have a couple of text fields that receive messages from the host application. We'll start by making a copy of the empty project folder that comes in the samples you can download from our webpage. We're going to rename that to First Project, and then we'll enter that folder. In the folder, we'll also rename the .qml project file to First Project as well. And then if you double click on that file, it'll start Qt Creator. The main view.qml file is the master source for this project. You can see that it just defines a rectangle with the dimensions of the screen that we're going to be using. We're going to go ahead and add a color spec to make it the same color as in the example. And then we'll click on the design tool and do some work there. So the first thing we'll do is add a text box about the middle of the screen, and we'll give it a text I/O example. And we'll change the font size to something fairly large, like 30. And then we'll go ahead and center this in the screen. Next, we'll add another text field, also about in the middle of the screen. We'll call this temperature. And we'll give it a larger font, but not as large as the previous one. And we'll go ahead and drag another text box in. We'll call this one Celsius. And just give it a little bigger size, not much. And the last text box we'll call Fahrenheit. We'll make its text box the same as the previous one. And we can take these and move them over a little bit. Now we'll go ahead and add text input boxes, and these are the boxes that will contain the values that are received from the host application. We'll give it a default text of a question mark. We'll call this one Celsius input, and we'll give it the same size as the adjacent text box. And then we're going to add another one of these for Fahrenheit. So give it default text, call it Fahrenheit input, and also increase its size slightly. Next, we'll add some image buttons. We'll scroll down to the Reach components, and we'll drag an image button onto the panel, and then a second image button. Go back to the first image button. We'll call this one button 1. We'll give it a label of button 1. And then we'll see the size of the label is too big for the button, so we'll simply resize the button to match the label. Then we'll go to the second button. We'll call it button 2. We'll give it a label of button 2. and we'll also resize it to match the first button. Now, if you want, you can move whole groups of items simply by highlighting them all and dragging them around as you want. That's all the graphical items we're going to add. So we'll go back to the edit view. We have to give object names to the input boxes so that our TIO agent can access them. So we type in object name, and then we'll give this one the Celsius text input, and we'll call it TC, and then the Fahrenheit text input we'll call TF. Now we have to add code to the buttons, so when they're pressed they send messages to our host controller. We'll use on button pressed. We'll use the method we provide called connection.sendMessage. And this is how you send a string from the display module to your host controller. For button 1, we'll simply say b equals 1. And then for button 2, we'll be sending a b equals 2 string. This is all the code that we need to add. So we're going to do a file, save all to save all the files. And then we'll start G2 link. First thing you need to do is select a serial port that's connected to the debug port on your display module. In my case, that's COM6. Pick apply and close. You know you have a good connection when the IP address for the display module is filled out. Now you click Publish and Run and browse to the folder that has the first project. In my case, it's Samples First Project. And then click Select Folder and then click Go. That will delete the existing files and download the new file. Then it will restart the QML viewer. Next thing we need to do is bring up a terminal emulator that's connected to the RS-232 port on your display module. When you press one of the buttons, you'll see the message come out on the terminal emulator. Likewise, in the terminal emulator, if you say tf.text equals and then give it a string, which is a number, you'll see that come out in the text box, in this case next to the Fahrenheit, or tc.text, some different value. You'll see that come out in the Celsius text box. Now you'll notice that I'm using a different syntax here. I'm saying things like tf.text equals 45, whereas in the unpacking demo it was simply tf equals. And that's because we're not using the translate.txt file in this demo. So that shows you how to write a simple application that sends messages to the host controller and receives messages from the host controller.
So that's a pretty simple application, but it gets you through all the basics of using the dev kit and using the Qt environment, downloading to the module, proving to yourself that it works. If you have any questions, feel free to call us or send us an email, and we'd be happy to help you.